Hey, it's BET weekend this week. You know what I'm saying? All the steppers gonna be in the city, right? Look, cuz, telling you like this. When you see me, you better tuck tail and run, nigga. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's my weekend. And six, I got a dime on Charleston Whitehead. It could be more.
Me and you can't have no business. You threaten to put money on my life. I'm a victim of a crime against a gangbanger like you, and you out on fair. No. I don't want to fight. I don't want to box. Keep on running content on my name. I'm putting Kill Squad in the street.
Oh yeah,
Slot for Vaughn,
nobody.
Right? Yeah.
They say you can't say that no more.
Why? Oh yeah, cause of. Wait, no. Like, who died?
You can't say that no more.
Oh, because of FBG Cash? Or who?
Nah, because Lil Pop.
Welcome back to another episode of Swamp Stories. For this one, we cover a man who the internet seems to take as a joke. Somebody who talks that talk but doesn't walk the walk. But as you'll see in this video, this man has a rap sheet longer than Jason Love, and on top of this, he's willing to do the unthinkable, crossing his own flag for the money. And most importantly, you'll get to see who he really is behind the scenes and why he's about to spend the rest of his life in prison. So if you ever took Brick Baby as a joke, this video will certainly change your mind. But before we get into it, let me run the intro. The story begins on Bedford Avenue, located in the notorious Overhill section of the Rolling 60s. Here is where a boy named Zaire Mitchell was born to a notorious Los Angeles family. Not notorious on an official or legal level, but notorious in the sense that they were known as a serious hustling family. So given their potentially dangerous lifestyle, they smartly decided to let Zaire stay with his grandma whenever they were handling business. Basically, throughout his younger years, he was between his mom's house on Bedford and his grandma's house on Donview Place. I say that to say that his family always wanted to put him in good positions, and that included sending him to private school as well. So growing up, Zaire attended Price Christian Academy and was known as a straight-A student and standout basketball player. Now I do want to point out that this isn't modern day or something, as the school is definitely located in the hood, but the point is that his parents put him in a good position. And early on it was really paying off, as Zaire had a bright future ahead. But then, his parents would meet some people that would change his family's trajectory forever. While Zaire was in middle school, his parents would meet and build a relationship with Big Meech and Southwest T, the founders of the notorious BMF. Ooh-wee, this took their hustle to a whole new level. Basically, they started with helping BMF expand to the West Coast, but then they were actually invited to live with them in Detroit. This was a financial opportunity of a lifetime, and Zaire's parents would take up on it and flee to Detroit. Obviously, they would leave the kids back home to be raised by Granny, and this is when life would start to derail for Zaire. Once his parents left, he began to veer towards hanging out with his cousins in the hood, who happened to be notorious Rolling 60s members. And unfortunately, as soon as he was introduced to the lifestyle, he knew that he wanted to be a part of the streets. But because he was only 11 to 12 years old, his cousins refused to put him onto the hood, and as a result, Zaire tried to create his own gangs.
And we started some called Inglewood, California Crip. Me and my best friend, Envelope.
Then, after giving up that idea, he decides to join something else.
From there, I joined a clique called CIP, and it was completely irresistible players. And the police end up documenting us in the gang files as Crips in Progress, CIP. So they changed it from completely irresistible players to Crips in Progress because we was getting into so much shit in the area. So that was really my introduction.
So now as a middle schooler, Zaire is roaming the West LA streets as an unofficial gang member. But then his friend's uncle would find out about this, and things would not be good for them. Well, not in the way you'd think. Instead of being upset that they're in the streets like any responsible adult should, he was just upset that they didn't join his gang.
Uncle Mike, he found out we all was from this clique, and he came over there tripping one day. Like he was bullying, like this is a big buff grown man. He came over there tripping on this one day, like I ain't having it. Like y'all either go turn West Boulevard today or this it over.
So now Zaire is pressured with the ultimatum of joining the West Boulevard Crips. This was like a dream come true, except because he was told to do it, he now did not want to do it. Like, if I'm gonna join somewhere, I'm gonna do it because I want to, not because somebody else is telling me to do it.
I ain't finna be from West Boulevard, because he tried to make me. You know, I was rebellious back then, so I started hanging with the Harlem 30s.
So now after rejecting the West Boulevards, he starts hanging out with the notorious Harlem 30s. He runs with them for a short time, but then his cousins come around and are like, you're either gonna join over there or join us with the 60s.
Like, my mom always had a house nearby Slauson, and all my cousins lived on Slauson, so I end up getting put on 60s like my 14th summer, but I always was affiliated.
So Zaire officially gets put onto the 60s during his 8th grade summer.
I got jumped by all old man. I squatted one, he was like 19, and I squatted with like a 30-year-old and a...
Damn.
Yeah, I got knocked out.
So now he's officially a Rolling 60s member right before starting out at his private high school. He's known as Zaire Mitchell at school, and on the block he's known as Wild Bill from the Overhills. But somehow amidst his gangbanging, he's able to maintain an above 3.0 average at school and to become the backup point guard. Now you might hear backup point guard and think that he was trash, but nah. You gotta know where he went to school. They were stacked. We'll get into all of that in a second, but the point is that while he's doing all this positive stuff, he's also living the life as a full-time gangbanger. When he wasn't at his Christian academy, he was knee-deep in very dangerous situations in the set. Specifically, his main expertise was robbing and extorting rappers who come to LA, and that takes us to 2004. June 29th, 2004. It's the weekend of the annual BET Awards in LA, and the Rolling 60s have nothing but extortion on their minds. In particular, on this day, Zaire and his boys have somebody they want to target. Yep, that's right, Jeezy the Snowman, and they desperately want that chain. Why him? Well, simply because he has the shiniest chain they've ever seen.
We've never seen nothing like this. You gotta think, LA, like the real Gotti diamond jury, diamond in each link, like, this has never been done in LA yet. The rapper's jury is very feasible. It's like, if you get you some rapper jury and go to the jeweler, you up a couple $100,000.
Unfortunately for them, they're unable to get a hand on Jeezy at the award show, so now they follow him to the club.
It was so many of us, we pushed the security out the way and rushed the club.
So now Zaire and his boys run in the club and absolutely take it over. In fact, Zaire jumps behind the bar, grabs 2 bottles, and then stands up and clashes them together. Simultaneously, his boys go over to the DJ booth and grab the mic.
Tell the whole club to roll the 60s in here, like, oh, like it's one of them nights.
After doing this, they wiggle over to the section that Jeezy's in, looking to snatch his chain.
We trying to ease our way to Jeezy. We see the snowman. We trying to go do our thing.
But as Jeezy's crew notice what's about to happen, they whip out their blicks.
They got like a chopper. This is my first time ever seeing like a mini carbine or something. Like, they got a chopper out, like, and we look back, and I just go to shake Jeezy and ooh, we yeah, like, what up, man?
Thankfully, the situation was stopped before it even started. But I say all that to show that at just 16 years old, this is what Zaire was about. And because of his willingness to do anything for the 60s, he was increasing his rank. This is how he earned the name in the set of Shitty or Shitro and the ability to put on new members. Well, in the late summer of 2004, he would bring his first young member to be put on the set. This would be a young friend of his by the name of Eric Holder. Eric was only 14 years old, but already thirsty and ready to put in work in the set. So of course, Zaire brings him to the set, puts him on, and he earns the nickname of Lil Shitty. Big Shitty and Lil Shitty, a duo that would forever make history in the set. So being a big homie at just 16 years old meant that Zaire had a rider by his side. At first, this meant protecting the trap, which happened to be Zaire's mom's house. This is where you could find a whole lot of money, jewelry, and illicit items inside. So because of Zaire, his mom's house became the hangout spot for the Overhill 60s.
My house was the spot. She had money and shit in the house and a lot of jewelry. So she let all the gangbangers kick it at the house because she had control of us. I had control of my homies, but we was like the security blanket.
Now remember, as he's committing felony robberies and hanging out on the block, he's still enrolled in private school and playing on the basketball team. So now it's the fall of 2004 and Zaire's team has a major season ahead. The team is absolutely stacked as they have a 6'10 D1 center, a 6'7 D1 wing, and the point guard is Devin Williams, who you may know is in the lab. Well, long story short, they're so good that they have an undefeated season in their league and they make it to the state championship game in Sacramento. Of course, they win the state championship, beating a Bay Area team like LA always does. So on paper, everything in Zaire's life is looking good. A good GPA, winning a state championship, and also getting noticed on the AAU circuit. In fact, he was playing so well that he skipped his senior year of high school to go play at a basketball prep school in Mississippi. Now you'd think that with this great opportunity, Zaire would go into it with a positive mentality. Now that I'm out of state, I'm going to leave the gang stuff behind me and simply focus on basketball. But sadly, for whatever reason, he simply cannot let the street life go. So right after his senior year at the prep school, he catches his first case. As he's riding around Mississippi in a car with no registration, the troopers get behind him. And because he has an illegal weapon in the car, he decides to take him on a chase. So he bends a few blocks, giving him enough time to roll down the window and throw out the clip and then throw out the weapon. So then after getting rid of it, he rolls his window up and then pulls over so they can talk to him. Unfortunately for him, the officers did see him throw it, so they go around and they end up finding it. At this point, everything he's worked hard for is at jeopardy. He could quickly become a felon. However, because of a technicality in Mississippi law, he gets off with a misdemeanor.
Threw the gun, so they found the gun with no clip. That's a misdemeanor. Because it wasn't like...
Well, while this is going on and he's sitting in a jail cell, he does receive some very good news.
And while I'm there, I get an acceptance letter from Clark Atlanta University.
So now he has the amazing opportunity to play on Clark Atlanta's basketball team and to go to school for free. Well, after presenting this to the court, the judge thankfully allows him to get out of jail just 2 days before orientation.
What day do you start orientation? He let me out 2 days before orientation, so I couldn't do no gang banging or nothing.
This was a close call, but thankfully they let him off easy and he's able to now focus on, well, is he? Oh, hell nah. You'd think that catching that case would scare him straight, like everything I've worked hard for almost was out of my hands. Like now I'm gonna focus on basketball in school and definitely stay out of trouble. But nope, Zaire's entrance to Atlanta would be quite the opposite. As soon as he touches down in the city, he links up with his Rolling 60s cousins who now run with BMF. So while his classmates are sleeping in the dorms and kicking it on campus, he's with Big Meech at the club and sleeping in his mansion as well.
So I'm the youngest little dude, you know what I'm saying, youngest in the club, 17, 18, I'm with Meech and them though.
And as soon as he was introduced to their lifestyle, he fell in love with it and was willing to do anything to impress Big Meech, including trapping and moving weight while being a full-time college student. So just like that, an 18-year-old Zaire is risking his freedom once again, and unfortunately during his second semester, it would all catch up to him. While heading down the interstate with 75 pounds in his car, a Georgia State trooper gets behind him. He throws some of the bags out of the window, but unfortunately they catch up to him before he can get rid of it all. And just like that, Zaire is arrested and is facing a serious Class A felony. While enrolled as a college student, he's now facing up to 8 years in prison. At this moment, everything he's ever worked for is now way out of the window. They caught him red-handed with serious weight, and he's going to be sitting in prison for quite some time. Well, long story short, he pleads guilty to the felony, and now his future is at the hands of a judge. Somehow he gets another lenient judge who sentences him to
4 months in jail, 10 years probation.
Receiving only 4 months for 75 pounds is very strange, especially in the South. On top of this, during this exact time, BMF was taken down and all of them got 15 to 20 years.
With 4 new big arrests, Atlanta police believe they have just about shut down the so-called Black Mafia family. And as our Julia Harding reports, these suspects were hiding out in one of the city's most popular areas.
Anyone tied to BMF typically has an extensive criminal history. So we consider them to be very violent.
Federal agents seized this limo with secret compartments that had almost $1 million hidden inside. An organization that at one time claimed to rule Atlanta. Now agents say that's no longer the case.
So now with all of BMF arrested, Zaire just threw his life away for nothing. You started trapping to impress them, and now you'll probably never see them again. So now that he doesn't have a school to go to or a crew to hang out with, he only has a choice but to return back to Los Angeles. So right after his release from Fulton County Jail, he makes his glorious return to the wicked, overhill Los Angeles streets. It's now the fall of 2006, and Zaire is back to ground one, hanging out with his 60s homies in the hood. He's now just another failed high school athlete who's back in the hood doing absolutely nothing. We all know some of those, don't we? But not only is he doing nothing productive, he's also in the process of risking his life every single day. Why, you might be wondering? Well, because while he was in Atlanta, his little homie Eric Holder was causing havoc in the streets. So upon Zaire's return to LA, he was putting his life in immediate risk. It's an early October afternoon, and Zaire and Eric are rolling through the set headed to their local corner store. Zaire has his shirt off and a blick sitting in his lap as they get to the store. So when Eric parks the car, Zaire hops out and puts his blick under his seat. He then reaches for the back door so he can grab his hoodie and put it on. But that's when he's met with a barrage of gunfire. Shots are flying from all the way across the street, but somehow Zaire is hitting his shoulder. It then ricochets and hits him in his neck, which completely shatters his back. So now he's laying on the floor and can't move anything under his waist. Thankfully, that's when Eric runs around to him, picks him up, and ties him down in the front seat. He then runs around to his side of the car, hops in, and speeds away to the hospital.
They ended up taking me. My boy was panicking, driving 100 miles per hour. I'm like, man, slow down, because I didn't have no feeling, so my neck I'm like, bro.
Thankfully, he ends up surviving after making it to the hospital, but that's when the doctors give him devastating news.
Like, I was in the bed, like when I first got shot, and he was rubbing the bottom of my feet. So what happened, my nerves were shattered. I had fractured my neck. I'm telling them, like, I could feel you rubbing my foot. He like, no, you can't. You're paralyzed. You'll be, he's like a Middle Eastern dude. You'll be paralyzed forever. You'll never walk again. I'm like, bro, I just felt you rub my feet. He's like, you want to feel me rubbing your feet? I'm like, what the f***?
So for 6 months, he lays in a hospital bed thinking that he'll be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. A whole lot of time to lay there and think about all of his wasted potential. So now he's pissed off at his rivals and he tells Eric to go put in work. So from what we know, Eric Holder immediately hit the streets and started knocking down rivals. So not only did he save his life, but he also allegedly eliminated those who did this to his friend. Eric's loyalty to Zaire was unparalleled. He was basically forever indebted to his life. Well, after months of being angry in a hospital bed, a miracle comes out of nowhere.
We sitting inside the hospital, we watching TV, and I just move my legs up like, and she like, what the f*** are you doing? I'm like, I was like, oh shit, I was trying to get comfortable. And my legs just moved. She like, what the fuck? Like, oh, she ran and got the nurse. Went to rehab, physical therapy after that for like 4 months.
Somehow after 6 months, he's able to fully recover and get back on his feet. And after his full recovery, he would smartly get out of the LA streets and head back to Atlanta. Now, you may be thinking that this was his wake-up call to get out of the streets, but this wasn't the case at all. Instead, he heads back to Atlanta with a serious mission in mind, and he brings Eric with him. Basically, he wants to become the king of the streets, the powerful leader of the Georgia Rolling 60s. At this time, and really still to this day, the streets in the South had absolutely zero structure. Nobody listened or followed orders from anyone, and it was pretty much every man for himself. No certified OGs, DPs, put-ons, none of that. So essentially what Zaire was trying to do was bring the Los Angeles way to Georgia, where he could have people under him and serving anything he wanted. So in order to do this, he hit the streets hard and recruited new members, guys who were under him and who would do anything he said. And in the process, believe it or not, they took over some serious hoods, and this is how Zaire truly made his name in Atlanta. From the notorious Four Seasons apartments, the West End, and a Southside hood known as Shady Park. Well, in the process of expanding the set, Zaire unfortunately brought some havoc to the streets. streets. In typical LA fashion, he began robbing and extorting rappers, a trend that Atlanta had never seen before.
No, that's somebody I robbed that was Gucci's best friend.
This is how he becomes known for robbing in Atlanta, somebody that you'd rather have on your side than against you. So he's basically extorting people for friendships, but on the flip side, he's also pretty intelligent. After befriending a local rolling 60 by the name of Pee Wee Longway, he ends up running his bag up like never before. If you're unfamiliar, Pee Wee was a very well-known hustler in the streets of Atlanta, known for running up millions. And because of this, he had connections to the up-and-coming and major rappers in Atlanta.
I met everybody through Pee Wee Longway. That's my brother. That's like my brother-in-law.
As they were constantly in studios and surrounded by rappers, they decided to join together and to start a music label. This would be known as Money, Piles, and Ammo, also known as MPA.
Okay, so you guys started rolling together and you guys start MPA together.
We around it so much, let's pay for some studio time, shoot a couple videos, let's just see where this goes.
Unfortunately, they had no idea how to properly run a business, but aside from that, Zaire had a special ear for talent. In fact, he discovered Young Thug in 2008 and actually started managing his career early on. Without having him signed to any sort of paperwork, Zaire had him in the studio and was also introducing him to some bigger names. In fact, in 2009, he even brought him to LA to try to get him in the studio with Nipsey Hussle.
I started showing him the game with what's going on the West Coast too.
Right.
You know, I took him in front of Nip in like 2009 and told him to work with him, and Nip was like iffy. Thug was slime then. He was real like, you know what I'm saying? He was out here robbing, doing all, you know, regular hood. So
the point is that he was helping out Atlanta artists and he had a really good ear for talent. So not only does he have a potentially major label at his hands, but he's also doing pretty well financially. In fact, in 2009, he copped a nice condo in Sandy Springs, a fly whip, and you know, he was just doing his thing. Once again, things are truly looking good for him, but sadly, this is when he's met with some terrible luck. October 22nd, 2009. It's a Thursday night in North Atlanta and Zaire is headed down Interstate 19 headed towards downtown. As he's cruising down, a Georgia State Patrol gets behind him and runs his tags. Unfortunately, he never registered the car, so the officer hits the cherries.
Ah shit, here we go again.
Zaire knows that he's riding dirty as a convicted felon, so he smashes on the pedal. Now he's on a high-speed chase cutting in and out of traffic in Buckhead, and then skirt, he smashes into a pole. Just like that, the officers are able to pull him out of the car and they find weapons inside. This time, it's no joke as he's facing 4 separate felonies. So already being a convicted felon, he's looking at up to 12 years in prison. But somehow, once again, Zaire is able to completely avoid prison and only get a few months in jail. What? A convicted felon and documented Rolling 60s Crip only gets a few months in jail for 4 separate felonies. That makes no sense in my mind. Well, once again he gets off easy and he's right back on the streets in early 2010. But not for long. On July 28, 2010, he would have another high-speed chase while on probation. And yet again, he's caught with a weapon and facing 10 years in prison. But mysteriously, the judge lets him off easy and he only does 18 months. Now before you call him a snitch or an informant, do understand that this is Fulton County, which is a complete joke. Well, regardless, it's now 2012 and the MPA boss returns to the streets. While he was away, Pee Wee Longway was able to discover young rappers Lil Durk, Rich Homie Quan, and a group called the Migos.
Rich Homie Quan before he came out. I'm hearing 21 Savage before he came out.
So as soon as Zaire got out of prison, he was connected with them and actually started helping their careers. Not only did he pay for their studio time and connect them with rappers, but he also provided them with protection. Durk being an outsider from Chicago and the Migos being suburban wannabes, they both could use some protection. But most importantly, the biggest thing he provided was protection whenever the rappers went to LA. In fact, he even brought Future to LA for the very first time.
You know what I'm saying? I've been that person like bringing them out here. Like I had Future, I turned LA on the Future. I was listening to Dirty Sprite 1. You know, I brought them out here to do a song with Nip.
Essentially, he was every rapper's connection whenever they'd go to LA. He was the first and only call. Remember this because it will be very important. Well, as we know, everyone around him and Pee-wee was getting rich and famous during this period. And after a while, they got kind of tired of being the guys in the background and they wanted to try rapping for themselves. So Zaire would become MPA Shitro or MPA Brick Baby, and Pee-wee was still Pee-wee Longway. Early on, things were looking bright for the duo as they had the help of Durk, Future, Young Thug, Gucci Mane, and more. Basically, because of everything they had done for them, if they ever needed a feature, it was done right away. But then unfortunately, as things are going up for Brick Baby, he catches another felon in possession charge in Los Angeles. And this time he's sentenced to 3 years in prison. As he's sitting in a lonely prison cell, everyone around him is getting rich and famous. Young Thug signs with Birdman and blows up, Future blows up, Lil Durk blows up, Rich Homie Quan blows up, Pee-wee Longway blows up, well, kind of, but you get the point. Oh, and don't forget that the Migos get a feature with Drake and they're out of here as well. So literally everyone who was with him in Atlanta completely blow up and get nationally famous. All while Zaire Brick Baby is sitting in a California prison with no fame or nothing. Damn, that would shatter any man's ego. Don't act like it wouldn't. But on the flip side, because they're all rich and famous now, he assumes that once he gets out, they'll definitely put him on. So 3 long years go by and Brick Baby is finally released. It's 2015 and Brick Baby is finally home expecting a warm welcome. But as soon as he touches down, a harsh reality kicks in. These guys are not your real friends. Aside from Thug, Pee-wee, and Durk, his friends were not there to help him out and pretty much wanted nothing to do with him.
You know, you told me earlier that you've been cut off. People cut you off or something of that sort.
My industry friends that I thought was my friends now. Free YSL, Gunna, Slime. Y'all did, you know what I'm saying? You already know, we ain't even gotta talk. Long way.
Are we speaking
Durk.
like
After everything he did for some of his friends in the industry, he really took it hard.
If it was broke, we could go through DMs, or when you was up and coming, we could do that. I just feel like they wanted to be around me when they was broke because they didn't have nothing. So now you a millionaire now, you don't want that type of pressure around. But you think I'm gonna turn that energy on you? You my boy, I love you. I wouldn't give a fuck if you had $1 or $1 billion. I'm gonna treat you the same way.
Brick Baby was now a peon or an afterthought to many people he helped out, and this truly hurt his ego. Now, instead of being the guy who helps out rappers and protects them, he reverts to being the guy who wants to rob them. Don't come to LA. Unless your name is Durk, Thug, or Pee-wee, you better tuck your tail. So as the streets tell it, Brick Baby becomes the biggest chain collector in LA. Basically, he had his young Rolling 60s members doing serious homework in the streets. This included having them sit at the airport for rappers to come to town and then following their cars back to their hotel. Then they'd relay all of this information back to Brick and he'd do with it what he pleased. So basically, without them knowing, rappers were being tracked by Brick Baby the second they stepped foot in LA. Then he and the Rolling 60s would wait for the perfect opportunity to strike, and then they'd get up on him and give me everything you got. So just like that, he went from being known as the helpful guy in the industry
to the boogeyman.
And because of this reputation, he would be featured on YG's notorious song, Don't Come to LA. Don't come to LA, raffles for their jewelry. Bro, LA is so corny, bro. But anyways, as the YG feature would help his recognition, he was still hurting financially. How I know this? Well, he was now 29 years old and still taking penitentiary chances. And that takes us to September 21st, 2017. It's an early Thursday afternoon on the west side of LA, and Brick and 2 Rolling 60s members are masking up for a lick. In particular, they aim to hit a high-end jewelry store in the wealthy Marina del Rey. So at 1 p.m, they arrive in front of the store in a gray Range Rover SUV. Then they quickly hop out of the car and run inside the store with bags. Once they're able to secure a few expensive items, they run out of the store and hop back in the Range Rover. Brick then quickly speeds away, not realizing that LAPD are already behind him. After bending a few blocks, he hears the sirens and knows they're in trouble. So he instantly punches the gas and busts a left down a residential road. This is when he finally realizes that it's a dead-end street. So now he has no choice but to stop the car and run inside a nearby apartment. While he barricades himself in the lobby, police completely surround the area. And from here, a 6-hour standoff begins, Brick Baby in the 60s versus LAPD. Finally, at 7:30 p.m., Brick Baby surrenders.
Misunderstanding tonight, or was it justified? A local rapper arrested after a tense standoff with officers in Marina Del Rey, but his family says police got the wrong guy. NBC4's Beverly White just spoke with his family and police. Beverly.
That's right, Chuck. LAPD says it started with a 20-minute pursuit this afternoon of a man traveling in a silver Range Rover, and it ended when he ducked into this apartment building in the 13,900 block of Panay Way. That music video from YouTube is of local rap artist Brick Baby, the 29-year-old now in LAPD custody after a standoff in Marina Del Rey, identified by his mother, who declined to give her name.
The already 3-time felon is facing 2 more of them things. Because of his history and the severity of the charges, he's facing up to 15 years in prison. Definitely nothing to scoff at. Of course, his family doesn't want to see him go away for a long time, and because of this, they go on the news and blame everything on his co-defendant. His mom goes on the news and says, "My son didn't rob anyone, in fact, he doesn't even own a gun." And get ready for this one. His friend is actually the one who robbed the store, and Brick only drove him away because of adrenaline. So she evidently threw his co-defendant under the bus. And I don't know, is this snitching? It's his mom, but yeah, it's snitching, right? Well, long story short, Brick is let off easy again as he's sentenced to 4 years in prison. And even though this isn't that much time, with 4 felonies on his record, what is he going to do for the rest of his life? Obviously, this is a harsh reality for a guy in his 30s, but sadly, during his prison stay, things get even worse.
The music world is mourning Grammy-nominated rapper Nipsey Hussle, who was killed in a shooting in Los Angeles. Hussle was shot multiple times yesterday in a parking lot outside his clothing store.
What he meant to the community, if you want to look around right now, every single person that's out here, spending their time here, they're here because he spoke to them in some way, he inspired them in some way, they related to him in some way.
He meant a lot. He meant everything to the community. You know, he was an entrepreneur. He was employing people. He loved his community. He was encouraging them and empowering them to be more, to do more with their lives. So that's why we're here today.
The city of LA, and more specifically the Rolling 60s, lost a legend, and unfortunately, Brick Baby would learn from a prison cell.
Oh no, I'm playing poker in the day room. So I'm playing poker, and a dude from Blackstone come over from Jungles. He come over like, "Shitty blood, like they killed Nip." I'm like, "Stop playing with the set." Immediately, I'm like, "Stop playing, bro." I get on the phone, I'm like, "Hey, what they talking about with Nip?" They like, "Yeah, he just got killed." And I'm like, "Huh? How did somebody come into the parking lot and kill bro? Like, he supposed to be untouchable in this parking lot." You get what I'm saying? Like,
Brick is completely devastated and confused, and it gets even worse when he finds out who did it. His lil homie Eric Holder, the one who saved his life and put in work when he was paralyzed. And once he heard the story of how it transpired, this is what hurt him the most. Basically, he was with his girlfriend and he walked up to Nipsey in front of his store. And when he goes to dap him up, Nipsey refuses to shake his hand and calls him a rat. This is a major violation in the LA street code. You do not call someone a rat without paperwork, and especially not in front of their girl. So Eric, being one of the only actual steppers from the Rolling 60s, he feels completely played and wants to do something to Nipsey. So long story short, he goes to his car, grabs his blick, and walks back to the block. Then in front of an entire crowd of Rolling 60s members, he walks right up to Nipsey and lets him have it. After emptying his clip, he simply walks away as Nipsey's friends are frozen in shock. And because of how quickly and emotionally this happened, Brick realizes that if he was there, he could have calmed down Eric and made everything okay.
Well, I get wind that it's Cuz, I'm like, oh, Cuz. I'm like, man, I'm just like, man, how one of my close friends killed my other close friend while I was in jail. So you always think like, damn, if I was on the streets, could I have stopped it? I probably could have took him to go smoke and slide, and we could have went somewhere that would never happen.
How Eric Holder was able to do this in front of all those people is beyond me, but it is California at the end of the day. And on top of this, instead of going by their own code and holding court in the streets, they decided to testify against him in court. What I've now learned doing this for a few years is that all of these LA street codes that they all say they abide by are pretty much never enforced. Or at least they pick and choose who they want to enforce them on, and on top of this, they're always contradicting themselves. But either way, we move on to another rapper loss that involves the Rolling 60s, and that takes us right back to Atlanta, Georgia. As we all know, in the summer of 2020, Chicago rapper King Von would start an internet beef with Baton Rouge's NBA YoungBoy. I guess it started over a girl, but for the sake of the video, the details don't really matter. Well, because of YoungBoy's close friendship with Rolling 60s rapper Quando Rondo, he was implicated in the beef as well. So for months, Von would instigate the beef and they would go back and forth online. Then eventually, Von would take the internet beef to the streets. On the night of November 6, 2020, Quando Rondo and his friend Lil Tim would be at a lounge in Atlanta. Von, who now happened to be living in Atlanta as well, would get word of this and he would pull up to the lounge. So while Lil Tim is sitting in the Escalade and Quando Rondo is standing outside, King Von would pull up on him and start whooping his ass. As soon as Tim sees what's going on and Quando's on the ground surrounded by the Chicago goons, he lets off.
Atlanta police say 2 people are dead after an officer-involved shooting here on Trinity Avenue in downtown. As dawn turned to daylight, you could make out dozens of evidence markers. GBI crime scene investigators combing the scene.
It hurt us. It hurt us a lot. I cried. Some of my friends cried. He had a big influence on us, a really big influence.
Obviously, this was a monumental moment in rap history as one artist lost his life to another. And unfortunately, everyone in the industry and the streets started picking sides. You're either on Von and Lil Durk's side, or you're on Quando and YoungBoy's side. There's no in between. Well, despite the fact that Von initiated all of this, and Quando's side arguably did nothing wrong, everyone was choosing Durk's side. This was so big that even Spotify and Apple Music are accused of taking Durk's side and blackballing Quando and YoungBoy.
He literally told me, he said, Apple blackballing Quando. He said, I talked to the people at Spotify, because you know Quando was signed to me. He said, they say they can't put him on so-and-so. It was either Apple or Spotify that said, they said, we can't put him on so-and-so because the other guy don't with him and he ain't gonna with us. So basically he was saying that Durk either told Spotify or Apple that, yo, if y'all with that guy, I ain't gonna with y'all. So basically they were picking sides, right?
All the guys who always talk about the street code, the street code, the street code. Well, I guess it doesn't apply to this situation. King Von and his crew initiated the beef and Lil Tim stood up for his friend. What goes against the street code at all? But like I said, with the streets picking and choosing what's okay, because Von and Durk were the popular artists, everyone went against Quando and
Tim. The game ain't acting like they're picking favorites, not standing on how the streets normally supposed to treat that. You're supposed to treat that as, alright, it is what it is.
Now, of course, this is all the industry, so let's go back to the real streets. And when I say real streets, I'm talking about Brick Baby. All of this went down while Brick Baby was in prison about a year before his release. Regardless though, upon his release, a lot of people were curious where his loyalties would lie. Are you loyal to your buddy Durk or to the Rolling 60s, specifically the set that you brought to Georgia? Now, according to the LA street codes, you're never supposed to go against your own gang, cause at that point, what's the point of even being in it? When you're constantly talking about on 6-0 and on hood and riding and being loyal for the set, there's no way you can cross your own flag. However, when it comes to your millionaire friend, all of that goes out the window. Right after his prison release, Brick Baby goes on No Jumper and lets the world know where he stands.
You know what I'm saying? Like Quando Rondo.
You're not with him.
Boy, stop.
Well, that's gotta be weird for you because you with Durk so much.
It ain't weird for me.
Yeah.
It ain't weird for me at all. You know what I'm saying? You're not from Rolling 60s.
Oh, really?
You're not from LA Rolling 60s. You're not from Rolling 60s.
Oh, really?
You're not from LA Rolling 60s. You're not from Rolling 60s.
Wait. All those years of putting people on in Georgia and spreading the 60s out there, and you don't even respect them as Rolling 60s? That makes no sense. That is the dumbest reason to say that you're not rocking with Quando, because he's not from LA and he's from Georgia. That makes no sense. So to all the Rolling 60s out there that aren't in LA, see this and understand that the guys in LA do not respect you, so Just understand that. And that's not to mention that the guys out of state are probably more active, because in LA they're just squabbling and catching fades and hanging out in front of their $1 million hoods where nothing happens and they talk about how crazy it is. But the point is that Brick Baby did the unthinkable and went against his own flag for his millionaire friend, going against everything he's ever said he stood for. And that just shows you the true character of Brick Baby, just grimy and slimy.
You really from the trenches and you showing love, cause we not gonna get on your ass. You get what I'm saying? Cause you got it like how we got it. Cause you got it like how we got it. Cause you got it like how we got it. It's these pretending ass niggas. You don't have a hood that you taking care of. You're not from the hood. 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 You're not from the hood.
So now that we know where Brick Baby stands, let's focus back on the beef between Lil Durk and Quando. From all accounts, Quando and the Savannah Rolling 60s never wanted beef with Vaughn and really never wanted this to happen at all. And despite the fact that all Lil Tim did was defend his friend, Lil Durk still wants get back for Vaughn. Well, given that Durk lives in Atlanta and Quando and his boys are only a few hours away, you'd think that he'd send a hit to Savannah. But because Quando and his boys would have home field advantage, and it's the South where everyone's packing heat, it's not necessarily an easy hit. But instead, Durk waits patiently for them to go to a particular city, a city where he knows he can get them gone. This of course would be the city of Los Angeles, which for 3 reasons would be the perfect place for him to do it. If Quando and his boys are in LA, they have no home field advantage. In fact, they probably don't know where they are at any time. And secondly, they won't be strapped, because the laws in California make it pretty much impossible to do so. And the third reason? None other than Brick Baby. As we know, Brick Baby is the king of hawking down rappers as soon as they touch down in the city. And not only can he give you Quando's exact location, but he can also supply you with what you need. You know, them days. Well, from what the FBI states, Lil Durk waits patiently for Quando and his boys to go to LA. And that day would finally come, nearly 2 years after the demise of Vaughn, August 18th, 2022. It's a regular morning like any other when Lil Durk gets a call from an unknown source informing him of Quando's presence in LA. This is the opportunity he's been waiting for, so he seizes it and he quickly calls an OTF member by the name of Vonnie. OTF Vonnie, whose real name is Kevon Grant, is a certified stepper from Detroit who's known for getting things done. So as soon as Durk gets the information on Quando, he calls up Vonnie and has him fly on his private jet to come meet him. So according to investigators from here, Durk and Vonnie have a meeting where they discuss what needs to be done. And because of Vonnie's reputation for allegedly getting people slumped, he's tasked with handling all the logistics. This includes booking flights, hotel rooms, rental cars, and basically handling everything that needs to be done. So as soon as the meeting wraps up, Vonnie immediately gets to planning. First, he gets in contact with 4 reputed OTF steppers, handpicked by him. These would be DeAndre Wilson, also known as Didi, Keith Jones, also known as Flocka, David Lindsay, also known as Brown Eyes, and Asa Houston, also known as Boogie. He informs them of the mission at hand and tells them to immediately get ready. Then he makes a massive mistake. Using OTF credit cards, he books them red-eye flights to Los Angeles. Coincidentally, just minutes after doing this, Durk texts him,
"Hey, don't book no flights under my name or anything that has to do with me."
Too late, buddy.
Not only did he already use the OTF card to get them flights, but he also got them hotel rooms as well. On top of this, one of the hitters DMs his girl on Instagram and lets her know that he's on his way to Los Angeles. Regardless, this doesn't stop anything, and the 4 OTF hitters head to the airport for their midnight flight. Okay, so now that all the travel is handled, Vonnie hops on a private jet headed to Los Angeles. He touches down in the early morning, and now it's time for him to get everything together. August 19th, 2022, 7 a.m. Vonnie takes an Uber to a luxury car rental and gets a BMW M5 and an Infiniti G37. He then wipes them down individually and takes them to get tinted. While waiting for the cars, he takes an Uber to Big 5 Sporting Goods where he buys 4 ski masks and 4 pairs of gloves. Oh, and not to mention, he again uses the OTF credit card. Well, once he leaves the sporting goods store, there's only 2 things left for him to do. First, he needs some blicks, and secondly, he needs to find out exactly where Quando Rondo is. And here is where 2 new mystery men come into the picture, known to the FBI as Co-Conspirator 2 and Co-Conspirator 4. Well, after the rental cars are ready, Vonnie meets up with Co-Conspirator 2, and when they meet up, number 2 hands him a duffel bag full of So they go their separate ways, and Vonnie now meets up with number 4. Together they go over strategy, and number 4 tells him to follow him. He'll take him exactly to Quando's location. Ooh-wee, it's really about to happen, and now they go to the hotel to pick up the rest of the hitters. From here, Vonnie and the hitters inside the M5 and Infinity follow number 4 to Quando's location. Aha, there he is. They spot his black Escalade on Melrose Avenue. Then number 4 messages them and tells them that that is in fact Quando's car. Now he vanishes off in the distance and allows the OTF hitters to do what they do. They're now tracking the black Escalade down Melrose, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Well, after a few minutes of following, the black Escalade busts a right on Beverly Boulevard and pulls over to get some gas. Oh yeah, now it's the perfect time. They head up an alley next to the gas station, park their cars, and get out on foot. They then run into the gas station and absolutely light up the Escalade. After emptying over 100 shots, they run back to their cars and vanish off in the distance. Thankfully, Quando Rondo was untouched, but sadly, his best friend wasn't.
Right now, the search is on for 3 people who police say shot at a Savannah rapper, killing a member of his entourage. It happened in Los Angeles, and cameras captured the aftermath. Shots fired, a fight taken to the streets, and this chaotic scene, the ending of a shooting that started in Los Angeles, California. Sheriff's deputies pulling out a man who had been shot in an SUV. Savannah rapper Quando Rondo, a passenger in that car, frantic at the sight. It all started at this mobile gas station at 5:30 Friday evening. LAPD says witnesses heard multiple gunshots, then watched a couple cars zoom off. 3 people in 1 car shot at this black Cadillac Escalade. It's unclear if those inside shot back.
Can I get some space, please?
It ended at Santa Monica Boulevard. Deputies found it peppered with bullet holes and a shattered window. 1 man inside, a member of Rondo's entourage, had been shot. The 23-year-old was taken to the hospital where he died.
They pulled up, they were pumping gas, and it looks like they probably finished pumping gas, and the suspects approached from the alley, got out of the car, and started shooting at those victims.
Shortly after doing this, the OTF members wipe down the rental cars, put their plates back on, and return them back to the owners. Now here is where things get interesting. After heading to the hotel and changing clothes, the 4 hitters head to Calabasas in an Uber to go to a burger restaurant. And there waiting for them is co-conspirator 2, who's there to discuss business and who gets paid what. Then once they come to a fair agreement, co-conspirator 2 takes a private jet to Chicago, and the rest of them head down to San Diego. This is where they wait for a couple of days, and a trustworthy friend of Durk brings them a whole lot of money. Now this begs an important question. Who does Durk trust in California to handle a whole lot of his money? And on top of this, who did he trust to find Quando's location and to supply the weapons? Well, I have somebody in mind, and I definitely think he's either co-conspirator 2 or co-conspirator 4. Given everything we know about Brick Baby's history in the streets, his dislike for Quando Rondo, and his relationship with Durk, it would only make sense. But not only does it make logical sense, but there's also a whole lot of information out there that will make you think that Brick Baby had something to do with this. So now let's get into the reasons why Brick Baby was certainly involved.
Ooh, here we go.
Reason number 1. Directly after losing his friend, Quando Rondo blames the Rolling 60s. Directly after the incident, he goes on social media and posts this on his story. Basically what he's saying is that he's done with the Rolling 60s, he's putting down his flag because of disloyalty. Now ask yourself, why after this incident would he be upset with his own gang? So much so that he's gonna put his flag down because of disloyalty. Obviously, he knew something the world didn't, that the Rolling 60s had something to do with the death of Lil Pab. And as we know from the indictment, somebody from LA gave up his address, so who else could it possibly be? Who else in Los Angeles would know Quando's exact location other than his own gang who he's supposed to tap in with? And on top of this, which Rolling 60 would be connected to Durk? Obviously Brick Baby. And that's just the first reason why I believe that Brick Baby is co-conspirator 4. And trust me, there's a whole lot of other reasons as well, all coming out of his own mouth. And now we're at reason number 2. Brick Baby hints at it and admits that he was involved. During the period after the incident, nobody was thinking that Lil Durk was involved because it happened in LA and the whole Rolling 60s thing. But that's when Brick Baby goes on No Jumper and reveals to the world that Lil Pab's death was Get Back for Vaughn.
Oh yeah,
Slot for Vaughn, right? Yeah.
They say you can't say that no more.
Why? Oh yeah, because of
Wait, no. Like,
They
who
say
died?
you can't say that no more.
Oh, because of FVG Cash? Or who?
Nah, cause Lil Pop.
Ooh-wee, this is when people started to put two and two together. Lil Durk had something to do with the death of Lil Pop. And isn't it interesting that one of Durk's closest friends and Rolling 60s member is the one who revealed it? Well, Wack 100 thinks it's very odd as well.
Could kind of turn into something, because if I'm not mistaken, he kind of made a comment like, I guess they can't say OTF didn't slide. There's no getting out of that.
Listen, if he's just a random person, it's whatever, but he's somebody who's got photos with Durk. He's been pictured with all the OTF guys and stuff. It seems like kind of, that was before he even worked for No Jumper. That actually was the interview that made me like, you know what? I'm gonna f with you.
Wait, what? That's why you hired him? Cause he snitched on Lil Durk? What? But anyways, let's continue.
Because at the time, OTF was never mentioned.
Right.
He's the first one that made any type of anything that OTF was involved by saying, I guess they can't say they didn't slide for bond no more. It's like,
well, if this doesn't convince you enough, right after this, Brick Baby would drop a song where he basically incriminates himself. In a song called Not Enough, here's what he says. He was ducking trying to hide, now he in a blunt. We dropped 100 shots, go dig your partner up. Then he says the last one we turned into a pack, we got 1 million plus. And now knowing what we know from the indictment of the co-conspirators getting paid, I mean, you know? But of course on the flip side, he could just be lying about the money, right? Except for the fact that after this, he mysteriously starts living in a Calabasas 4-bedroom mansion. So just a year after getting out of prison for robbing a jewelry store, you're living in a Calabasas mansion. How does that make sense? I mean, No Jumper ain't paying that much, cause I promise you Brick Baby's house is worth more than Adam's.
Don't forget, Brick Baby is the rich Crip.
Okay, so let's get back on track. The No Jumper interview where he reveals that the Lil Pop situation was get back for Vaughn, that was in February. And strangely, just a couple weeks later in March, the feds start tracking Brick Baby's every move. In fact, they even spy on him for 4 months straight.
To know you was getting followed for 4 months.
It was 4 months?
Hell yeah.
The only thing you told me is that they were following you back and forth from your house to here. And that kind of tripped me out. I'm like, wow, so these fools are just like parked outside sometimes and we just don't even know?
And low with grandma van, like soccer vans and shit.
And after 4 months of spying on him, they finally raid his house in the middle of the night. Yep, on June 25th, 2023, his Calabasas mansion was raided and they found an AK-47. Now generally this isn't that serious, but given that he's a 4-time felon, this is no joke. In fact, just like Crip Mac, he was facing up to 15 years in prison. And even though he seemed to wiggle out of serious consequences for every felony he's ever had, this one is a little different because it's the feds. Well, long story short, over the next year, somehow the case just magically disappears. And that really makes you wonder, how does a 4-time felon have such a big case dropped, just like that? Well, actually, the first question is, why was he being spied on and why was he raided in the first place? Does it have anything to do with the murder of Lil Pop? Or the fact that he was snitching on himself? Well, Wack 100 seems to think that he snitched to get out of this, and that's why Lil Durk is now indicted.
Brick got an open case. And everybody's watching, Brick, where your court dates? Boom! OTF is hit with an indictment.
And even if Brick didn't actually snitch, Wack says that he could be the reason that the feds even look Lil Durk's direction.
Now, you got the people saying, well, this dude is a known gang member. He ran with these people. Okay, well, let's look over there. Maybe they wasn't even thinking about looking over there. But because they heard him say it, they like, let's look into that. Let's just see where it takes us. And they might have looked at one dude, grabbed at one dude from what they heard, and the one dude went bad and fed him everything else. So
okay, so let's now play devil's advocate, right? Let's assume that Brick Baby had nothing to do with the death of Lil Pop and that he's not a snitch. And if that's actually the case, please explain these two reactions. This was his live reaction to receiving the news that the 4 OTF members were indicted.
There, nigga. Yeah, this is crazy.
Hang on, wait.
Yeah, that's him.
Wait, was this an attempt or an alleged attempt?
He dead. Yeah,
no, Quando.
Yeah, Lil Pap, his man's is dead. His man's is dead.
Oh, his boy, but nah, he didn't get hit.
Nah, Quando's fine.
So they got his boy instead.
His boy is dead. Yeah.
But were they alleged to try to get him too?
Yeah, he was there.
So,
But was he the intended target?
That I don't know.
Yeah,
see,
right.
this is how you need to be when you sit down with Diddy's bodyguard.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, with Biggie's bodyguard.
Good. See, this is good.
This is exactly
I'm getting
the kind
a free
of
lesson here as well.
Yeah. So essentially,
Thank you for that, by the way. Thank
1,000.
I appreciate it.
Got you, my buddy. So this dude, Quando Rondo, he's an artist that was affiliated with the dude that had had killed King Von. So, and this was allegedly a retaliation for that.
For sure. 100%. Well, I'm about to say, nah, that's crazy. So the feds charged an indictment with unsealed. It said was unsealed Thursday in the U.S. District Court in Los Angeles. Are Kevon London, DeAndre Wilson, Keith Jones, David Bryan, and Ossie Houston.
I don't know, maybe I'm looking too deeply into it, but he seems nervous. And to make matters even worse, he says that giving up Quando's location for Lil Durk is something that he would actually do. Like, why would you say that?
Then it's people like, you lined up somebody from your hood. Like, listen, I didn't do shit. But at the end of the day, what's wrong with giving my friend the address? Oh, this is my boy. He lost his boy. Who did it could be around. 9 times out of 10, had he asked me, I probably would have been Coke if he even asked anybody, if this is even true. But 9 times out of 10, like I said, can I leak a bar?
Sure.
I said if he make the call right now, I dig his up in.
Right. What's wrong with getting somebody from your own gang killed because your friend asked you to?
I mean, what's wrong with that?
Like, forget on a moral level, clearly this guy has no morals. But on a street level as well, especially in LA, openly admitting to backdooring your own gang for your millionaire buddy is crazy. So you guys tell me what you think. Firstly, do you think Brick was involved in the hit in any way, and was he co-conspirator 2 or co-conspirator 4? And secondly, do you think he's a federal informant that gave up Durk for his own protection? And even if he didn't officially snitch, do you think that his song lyrics and comments on podcasts are the reason that the feds looked into Lil Durk? Well, personally, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure that Brick Baby goes to jail for the rest. No, I'm just kidding, I won't do that. But what I will do is hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know what you want to see next. Peace!